Ever since the sky turned poisonous, humanity has huddled within fortress-like structures known simply as the arks. These massive, sealed domes were the product of decades of desperation, funded and constructed by a coalition of governments that once believed the acid storms might be temporary. But the corrosive rain never stopped. Decades passed, and the outside world dissolved into an uninhabitable carnage of melted rock, rusted steel, and lifeless soil. The arks stood as tomb-like sanctuaries, the final proof that humankind still existed. I was born within the labyrinthine corridors of Archelion, where the hum of air purifiers, the clanking of water filtration systems, and the distant vibrations of industrial recyclers were the lullabies of survival. From birth, I was told that stepping outside was suicide. The hissing droplets could sear flesh and bone within minutes, devouring metal and glass just as effortlessly. My earliest memory is from when I was 3 or 4 years old, watching rain droplets trail down the reinforced plexiglass observation window. They left behind faint, sizzling lines of corrosion that the cleaning robots had to scrub away daily. Life in Archelion was a regimented cycle of assigned jobs, limited leisure, and a scarcity of everything from food to personal space. Yet it was the only life I knew. Each week my mother volunteered as part of the agricultural division, helping cultivate algae, mushrooms, and genetically modified root vegetables. My father was a mechanic whose days were spent deep in the bowels of the ark, repairing valves and pumps that kept the life support systems running. Day in and day out, they sacrificed leisure or personal desires for the sake of our limited community. We had a harsh schedule. Morning, quick breakfast of protein porridge. Afternoon, 4 to 6 hours at your assigned station. Evening, community service or studying in cramped classrooms. Lights out at precisely 2200 hours. Tedium pervaded every corridor. Flickering overhead lights kept the ark in a perpetual buzz of electricity, never quite bright enough to dispel the gloom. Rumors occasionally spread about other arks that had gone dark. Whether they collapsed from internal strife or structural failure was anyone's guess. Every rumor, hotly discussed in the communal dining halls, ended in a final verdict. No one could survive outside, so leaving the ark wasn't an option. Growing up, I devoured every piece of lore about the outside world. I was fascinated by stories of ancient forests, oceans so vast they shimmered to the horizon, and rivers that once sparkled in the sunlight. The longing to see something other than Archelion steel walls became an ache I learned to hide carefully. My mother always said hope is a dangerous thing unless you temper it with truth. She was right. Rash hopes had no place in a reality governed by stifling routines, resource shortages, and the knowledge that a single crack in the dome or malfunction in the filtration system could doom us all. Things began to change the day I heard rumors of a new technology, an exosuit designed to withstand the acid rain. I was on patrolling duty carrying messages between the mechanical division and the central hub. We'd been short on comm devices for a month, so official runners like me were the fallback. As I traversed the A13 quarter, I passed a small group of engineers leaning against a wall, whispering in conspiratorial excitement. Though I didn't catch the full conversation, one phrase echoed in my mind, setting my heart racing: external exploration. That evening after dinner, I confronted my father in his workshop, where he was greasing the joints of a broken filtration conduit. "I heard talk about suits," I said, trying to mask my eagerness. He looked up with tired eyes. "Don't go chasing rumors, Rowan. Too much can go wrong." "But is it possible?" I pressed. "Could someone build a suit to withstand the rain? Has it already been done?" A faint spark of regret flickered across his face. He wiped grease from his hands and paused, choosing his words carefully. "Designs exist, but prototypes fail. Even if you survive the rain, the air outside is toxic, and no one knows if the ground could support you or if everything is liquefied into sludge. It's not worth the risk." I knew better than to push further, yet his words lingered with me, fueling my curiosity. If a suit could offer even a minuscule chance to glimpse the world beyond, to feel the wind on my skin instead of stale, recycled air, I wanted to learn more. Over the next few weeks, a subdued buzz spread through Archelion. People stopped in hallways to share furtive updates or pass along cryptic messages about Project Aegis, the rumored name for the exosuit initiative. One day, an older runner, Sasha, cornered me in an empty corridor. "Someone told me you've been asking about suits," she said in a low tone. Her half-lidded eyes weighed me cautiously. "You want to see them?" That moment felt like stepping onto a ledge overlooking a bottomless pit, but I swallowed the knot in my throat and nodded. "Yes, I'll do whatever it takes." She gave me instructions to meet her the following night in corridor E9 near the lower-level generator, right after the final shift ended. "Don't be late," she said, then slipped into the throng of workers returning to their bunks. I spent the entire next day in a fog of anticipation and fear. Was it a trap? The Ark had internal security forces tasked with preventing unauthorized projects that could threaten communal stability. Project Aegis sounded exactly like something the authorities would disapprove of. Still, the urge to learn more outweighed caution. At the appointed time, I slipped away from my bunk, avoiding the prying eyes of neighbors and the roving security squads, and followed the labyrinth of dimly lit corridors to the generator room. A single overhead bulb flickered ominously in the gloom. Sasha was waiting with two others. Dr. Farida Delgado, a biomedical engineer I recognized from routine checkups, and Jarrett, a wiry mechanic with a face full of scars from an industrial accident long ago. Dr. Delgado spoke first. "You're probably wondering why you're here." I nodded mutely. She exchanged glances with Sasha and Gerard before continuing. "We've been working in secret for years. The suits," she cleared her throat, "they're designed to handle the acid rain in short bursts, but we need to test them." Gerard tapped a crate behind him, the clang of metal reverberating. "We've got two prototypes. One is advanced, one is a backup. We can't risk the Ark's top leadership finding out. Our goal is to see if we can someday expand, maybe find resources outside. Humanity can't stay locked up forever." Sasha eyed me warily. "If you agree, you help us keep it under wraps. This is bigger than curiosity, Rowan. It's about giving us a chance to live without these walls." My heart thudded so loudly I was sure they could hear. I had no idea how to respond, but a long dormant flame of longing flared within me. "I'm in," I breathed. "Tell me what I need to do." Over the following weeks, I slipped away to these clandestine gatherings every chance I got. We set up a makeshift workshop in a defunct portion of the Ark's sublevel where the lighting was minimal and the chances of random patrols were low. Gerard and Dr. Delgado tested a variety of corrosion-resistant alloys for the exosuit's outer shell, while Sasha worked on an oxygen filtration unit that would allow limited breathing outside. My role was partly as a runner for supplies, gaskets, microchips, polymer adhesives, and partly as an extra set of hands, holding plates or realigning metallic joints. During these sessions, I learned just how precarious Ark Helion's existence was. The outer dome showed signs of continuous corrosion that required near-constant maintenance, and the internal climate controls teetered on the brink of breakdown. Despite official reassurances, resources were running out, and the leadership had no viable plan B. Dr. Delgado confided, "Within 10 or 20 years, maybe less, this dome will fail. We have no guarantee any other Ark would take us, assuming they're still functioning. If we can't learn to withstand the outside, we perish." Eventually, the suits neared completion. Each day we tested their reflex servos, mobility ranges, and stress tolerance under simulated acid exposure in sealed environment chambers. The tests showed promise, yet no one had actually ventured outside in them. That step was overshadowed by the undeniable risk of stepping into a place none of us had ever truly seen. By some miracle, no one discovered our project. Security was focused on policing domestic disputes and ration forgeries, not on secret labs and half-abandoned lower corridors. The day before the planned test, we convened in hushed excitement and fear. Sasha would be the test subject. Although I had hoped to volunteer, Dr. Delgado insisted that Sasha had the most training in emergency protocols and remote communication. I tried to protest that I was ready, but the more experienced members overruled me. My assigned role was to assist in monitoring Sasha's vitals from inside. We chose a small airlock that had been decommissioned years ago. The plan was simple. Sasha would step outside for a few minutes, test the suit's functionality, collect a small sample of soil, and then return. If all went well, we'd expand the exploration plan. When the time came, every footstep reverberated with tension. We carried the exosuit in parts, pretending they were spare mechanical components. Gerard took up position at the control panel, recalibrating the decrepit airlock so the inner and outer doors still functioned. Dr. Delgado ran a final check on Sasha's medical vitals, injecting a monitoring chip into the suit's collar so we could track her pulse and respiratory rate. I helped Sasha slip into the armor piece by piece. Thick, segmented plating across her torso, a flexible polymer spine, titanium alloy limbs layered with rubber-like insulation. We sealed the helmet last, the visor tinted to repel ultraviolet radiation that still burned through the acrid sky. She lifted her arms and ran through a final checklist, her voice crackling through our handheld comm. With a nod, Gerard opened the inner door. We all shuffled inside the narrow airlock enclosure, silent except for the hiss of depressurization. Then Gerard sealed us in and engaged the external release. The outer door groaned. My heart pounded in my ears, imagining the deadly atmosphere that lay beyond. A faint hiss signaled that the external environment was open. The acidic stench seeped in, biting at the edges of the airlock's threshold. Sasha stood with her shoulders squared, her gloved hand gripping a sensor rod. She moved forward, and the thick raindrops outside sizzled as they connected with the suit's plating. The world beyond was a fractured wasteland of corroded metal beams, molten roads, and blackened skeletons of buildings. All of this was visible through the shimmer of the suit's visor feed, which we had managed to patch into our handheld screens. She stepped outside. Immediately the downpour pelted her, leaving steaming rivulets that dripped off her armor. We monitored the suit's temperature readings and chemical filters, expecting a sudden spike that might indicate a breach. Everything held steady. My breath caught in my throat as Sasha moved further from the airlock. The terrain was more treacherous than I had ever imagined. Great sinkholes marred the ground, and twisted rebar protruded from the melted husks of what might have been vehicles or lampposts. A splintered chunk of what used to be a city street jutted upward like a slate tombstone. The acid hissed ceaselessly. "Vitals are stable," Dr. Delgado reported, tapping the small monitor in her hand. "Oxygen filtration normal." Gerard's tension eased slightly. "The plating is holding up well," he whispered. We heard Sasha's breathing accelerate, her voice occasionally crackling in our earpieces. "It's bleak out here," she said. "Everything is black and gray, no signs of life." She swallowed audibly. "I'm collecting a soil sample now." She crouched and scooped an oozing layer of grit into a small container attached to her suit's thigh. Suddenly, a flash of static disrupted our link. Sasha's video feed flickered. Dr. Delgado frantically tried to re-establish a clear signal. For a moment we lost sight of her. Then the comm crackled. Sasha's voice came through, panicked. "There's movement to structure, it's not eroded. Wait, I see. Oh no." Her feed surged to life for half a second, showing a looming structure rising from the gloom, its surface glinting despite the acid sheets. Then the connection severed, replaced by a shrill squeal. Jared slammed a button on his console, fighting to re-establish comms, while Dr. Delgado cursed under her breath, her eyes glued to Sasha's vital signs. The feed cut in and out, revealing Sasha breathing heavily, stumbling backward. "Tentacles," Sasha's voice trembled. "Something's here, alive." My blood ran cold. How could anything be alive in this acidic hellscape? We could barely find viable farmland in controlled environments, much less outside. But if something endured, it might not be friendly. In a burst of static, the last image froze in place, a serpentine appendage, dripping with rain, sliding across the cracked earth towards Sasha's boot. Then the feed died. Her vitals spiked, then vanished. We heard her ragged breathing, but it was faint, like she was moving beyond our short-range transmission. Gerard smacked the panel. "We have to get out there," he shouted, but the reality was we had only 2 suits. The second wasn't fully tested, and reassembling it would take precious minutes. My eyes darted to Dr. Delgado, who wore a grim expression. She nodded, directing me toward the crate where the second exosuit lay in disassembled segments. I'd insisted on stepping out before, but now my hands shook as I pulled out the arm pieces and chest plate. Gerard helped me fasten them with practiced speed born of desperation. Dr. Delgado locked the helmet into place, the face shield sealing my vision. The comm crackled, and I heard her calm but urgent voice. "We'll maintain contact as long as possible. Find Sasha. Bring her back." A swirl of fear and adrenaline pulsed through me, but there was no time to hesitate. Gerard sealed the second exosuit's oxygen system, and I stepped into the airlock. The hiss of air pressure filled my ears, followed by the groan of the outer door. A wave of acidic stench enveloped me as I took my first steps outside. My entire field of vision, now filtered and tinted, revealed a blackened wasteland under a sky that glowed a sickly green. The rain battered my suit, sizzling as it met the plating. Sensors flashed across my visor, measuring toxic elements. Everything was off the charts. "Sasha, come in," I called, scanning the environment. Static was my only answer. I trudged forward, each footstep sinking slightly into the sludgy ground. Movement was more difficult than our test simulations. My boots sank into layers of half-dissolved debris that squelched with each step. The darkness was nearly complete. Clouds thick as ink choked the sky, leaving no hint of sunlight or stars. My suit's headlamp cut a narrow beam through the gloom, illuminating corroded wreckage and twisted silhouettes that had once been structures. Thunder rumbled overhead, punctuated by jagged forks of acidic lightning. After several tense minutes, I spotted faint footprints leading toward a leaning mass of rebar. A glint of metal caught my eye. It was the side of Sasha's suit. She was crouched behind a large chunk of collapsed concrete, panting. Relief washed over me as I approached. "Sasha!" I said into the comm, and she startled, nearly swinging the sensor rod at me. Her shell-shocked eyes peered at me through her visor. "Rowan," she breathed. "I heard something. Something was out here." She pointed a trembling finger toward the darkness ahead. There was a flicker of light. Then I saw... It looked like a creature, like a mutated serpent or something with tentacles. "I swear it was real," I nodded, scanning the area. "We need to get back. This place isn't safe." Before we could move, a new flash tore across the sky, and thunder shook the ground. A colossal shape loomed in the gloom, illuminated only by the crackle of lightning. It was not a creature of flesh, but a battered structure that rose into the angry sky. Made of some unknown metal that hadn't fully corroded, it had a massive spire crowned with flickering lights. We gaped, half in awe, half in terror. Sasha's voice was hushed. "That's what I saw. It was glowing." And then I saw movement at the base. The spire gleamed again, then a low mechanical whine echoed across the wasteland. I stood transfixed, heart hammering. Whatever it was, it seemed functional, some advanced tower left behind by a civilization that had found a way to endure the deluge. My comm crackled with Dr. Delgado's frantic voice. "Rowan, Sasha, do you copy? You're moving beyond range. Return or we risk losing you both." A new bolt of lightning revealed fluid, serpentine shapes near the tower's base. Were they cables swaying in the wind or living worms that thrived in this acidic environment? Either way, we were ill-equipped to investigate further. "We have to go," I insisted. Sasha, still trembling, nodded. We turned, trudging back the way I had come, our feet sloshing through toxic sludge. Each step was a battle, the acid-laden air thickening by the second. My visor beeped a warning. Oxygen filters nearing capacity. My heart drummed with urgency. When we finally glimpsed the ark's silhouette, I felt tears pricking my eyes. The airlock was a small rectangular protrusion lined by rusted catwalks. Jared stood there in a protective poncho, beckoning us. We stumbled inside, the door sealing behind us with a screech. The inner chamber pressurized, and the filtration system roared to life, stripping away the toxic vapors clinging to our suits. Dr. Delgado and Jared tore open the exosuits, checking us for acid burns. Relief swept over their faces as they confirmed we were unharmed. In the aftermath, we removed the exosuits, heart still pounding. Sasha recounted what she saw: a tower of unknown origin, luminous lights, and the slithering movement. Gerard and Dr. Delgado exchanged uneasy looks. Gerard Delgado's voice trembled. That suggests advanced technology, possibly a different ark or a lab that survived. If so, it changes everything. Maybe we aren't alone out there. Or it could be something else entirely. Gerard sighed, half with dread and half with wonder. We don't know if it's friendly. We bunkered down in the workshop, the single lamp casting trembling shadows as we replayed Sasha's suit recordings. The images were fragmented, glimpses of twisted girders, swirling acid mists, and the half-revealed structure. There was a faint silhouette of something that might have been a mechanical tendril. It was impossible to be sure. What we did know was that the exosuits worked, at least for short excursions. The outside world, though horrifying, might hide secrets that could reshape our fate. Word spread quietly among the small circle that had placed their hope in Project Aegis. Some argued for immediate exploration of the tower, convinced that any technology that withstood the acid for so long could be a salvation. Others insisted it was an unnecessary risk. We were already at the limit of what our meager resources could sustain, and a larger expedition could draw unwanted attention from Ark officials. So for a while we kept silent, continuing our daily routines while planning our next steps in secrecy. The entire dynamic of Arkelion shifted subtly for me. I walked the corridors, knowing that beyond these steel walls lay more than just devastation. There were mysteries, possibly hope or danger. No matter how loud the mechanical hums and alarms in the Ark were, I couldn't unhear the thunderous drum of rain outside, nor the vision of that towering structure. Anxiety rippled through our group. We were trapped between two perils: the slow decay of the arks and the unknown horrors of the acid world. Yet a silent conviction took shape within me. We had found a way to survive outside, if only briefly. We had seen evidence of something else persisting out there, something that refused to be corroded away by the endless storm. Even if we didn't fully understand it, it presented a glimmer that humankind might not be doomed to remain sealed forever. Before I left the workshop that night, Sasha grabbed my wrist, eyes fierce. "We have to do more than exist," she whispered, her gaze filled with pent-up longing. "We owe it to ourselves and the future to find out what else is out there." Gerard and Dr. Delgado exchanged a glance. "We're with you," Dr. Delgado said quietly. "We've come too far to just give up now." That was the moment of resolution. Our group made a pact to continue refining the suits, forging additional ones for a future expedition. We vowed to find that tower again. Keeping it secret from Ark leadership wouldn't be easy, but necessity drove us onward. The next morning I returned to my usual post as a runner. But the world I inhabited was different now. Every glare of overhead lights, every whir of the piping, every shuffle of tired workers passing by reminded me that we were living on the Ark's foundations were rusting from the inside out. Food supplies were meager. The rainfall outside was not letting up. If we did nothing, we would simply fade into oblivion inside these claustrophobic corridors. If we took bold steps, we might discover a way to adapt, or at least find evidence that we weren't alone in this acidic tomb of a planet. In the following weeks, whenever the rains pounded overhead, I'd stand near the observation window and watch rivulets etch sizzling lines across the plexiglass. I would picture the swirling mists beyond, the shards of once great cities hammered into molten shapes, and that mysterious spire piercing the sky. An uneasy mixture of dread and hope settled in my stomach. We had glimpsed the darkness, but also glimpsed the possibility that in the midst of all the ruin, survival was not limited to these sealed chambers. Gradually, my mother and father began to sense my distance. We spoke less, and I caught them exchanging worried looks. Guilt gnawed at me for shouldering such a cosmic secret. They still believed wholeheartedly that Arkelion was our only bulwark against annihilation. Late one night, my father confronted me in his workshop, the same place where he'd once warned against rumors of the exosuit. "You've changed," he said quietly, setting down a wrench. "You're quiet, tense. I see it in your eyes that you're caring more than you let on." I swallowed hard, deliberating how much to reveal. A small voice in my head whispered that I shouldn't drag him into this, but the burden of secrecy strangled me. "Dad," I began, "what if there's another way for us to survive? Beyond these walls, I mean." He sighed, running his fingers through his hair. "Rowan, we all wish there was, but the world outside is maybe not entirely." I hesitated, then pressed on. "We've been told no life remains outside, but what if that's not entirely true? What if there's something that endures?" His eyes flickered with uncertainty, whether it was paternal care or his own deep-seated doubts. He didn't press further. "If you found something," he said, voice low, "be cautious. There's too much at stake. Your mother and we love you too much to lose you." I sensed the conflict in him. Part of him burned with the same curiosity he saw in me. Another part wanted to shield our family from heartbreak. I thanked him, leaving his workshop feeling like an acrobat balancing on a wire between revelation and duty. After that conversation, I poured every spare moment into assisting Dr. Delgado, Gerard, and Sasha. We assembled better suits, each iteration more advanced in corrosion resistance and oxygen capacity. We planned for the day we'd attempt a full reconnaissance trip to the mysterious tower, hoping to uncover a method to extend human life outside. The day of departure was set, a hush-hush mission with only 5 participants, each with a specialized role. On the eve of our expedition, I found myself at the observation window again, watching the lethal downpour. My mother approached from behind. Without turning around, I sensed her presence. She laid a gentle hand on my shoulder. "We used to pray for rain," she said softly, voice tinged with bittersweet nostalgia. "In the old world, there were droughts, wildfires, thirst. Now, we'd give anything for the rain to stop." I met her gaze. Worry lines framed her eyes, yet there was also a flicker of understanding. "Be safe," she said, pulling me close. In that moment, she didn't need details. She just knew I had chosen a path that carried great risk. I gave her a slight, brave smile and returned my gaze to the storm. "I will," I whispered, hoping it was more than just hollow reassurance. The next day, armed with our carefully refined exosuits, we made our secret exodus through the hidden airlock. The dome hissed open and the acid-laced wind roared in defiance. Our hearts hammered as we ventured into the scorched, corroded wasteland once more. This time, we aimed for the distant silhouette of that towering structure. Whatever waited for us beneath its flickering lights, salvation or danger, we would face it together. Behind us, the ark stood sealed and silent, a fortress of steel and human determination. Ahead lay the scalding unknown, dripping with the promise of risk, but also, just maybe, a route to survival that stretched beyond the suffocating walls of everything we had ever known. And in that moment, each electrified step forward felt like reclaiming a piece of humanity's soul, tempered by acid and defiant in the face of extinction.